Thank you so much, Patrick. Good afternoon, everybody. It's my pleasure to introduce our speaker today, Nadine Lee, President and CEO of DART. As the President and CEO of DART, Nadine leverages the talents of 3,800 employees to deliver connected and seamless mobility for their entire service area. Previously, Nadine served in the roles of Chief of Staff and Deputy Chief Innovation Officer for LA Metro, where she established the Vision 2028 strategic plan, the offices of equity and race and customer experience, and the Better Bus program. Prior to LA, Nadine led the development and implementation of the Flatiron Flyer Bus Rapid Transit for Denver's Regional Transportation District, RTD, a project that produced a 40% increase in corridor ridership in its first few months of service. Nadine is currently serving as chair of the North American Division for UITP, which stands for International Associate of Public Transport. I had to look this up. During her long history with UITP, she's been active in areas such as sustainability, accessibility, innovation, and the development of the recently released strategic plan. A professional engineer by training, Nadine believes firmly that public transit agencies play a critical role in ensuring a brighter and more resilient future for everyone. She's committed to using performance measurement and continuous improvement to elevate the quality of DART's mobility services for the benefit of everyone in North Texas. Let's welcome Nadine.
Thank you very much, Elaine, and thank you, Patrick. Um, I am really delighted to be here. It's really such a pleasure to be here with SAME and ASCE. Heard I'm an engineer by education, so I feel like I'm with my peeps. And it's been a while because a lot of times I don't get to talk to engineers. So forgive me if I get a little geeky on you. Um, I'm so honored to have an opportunity to speak to you today, and I'm really happy to see all of your friendly faces because these days, in case you've been reading the newspapers, I'm not getting a lot of friendly feedback from people. But it's nice to see people who care about the future of mobility in North Texas, and so again, just really happy to be here. I went back through my record books and looked at the last time I spoke to SAME and ASCE, and it was actually about 3.5 years ago, so not too long after I started at DART. And so I kind of took a quick journey down memory lane to kind of remind myself where we were at that time. So when I last updated you all on what was going on, uh, it was in early 2022, and I had only been here about 6 months. We had just launched our new bus network, which was a complete revamp of our entire bus network. And every single route changed in the network. Every single stop changed. We went from 10,000 bus stops to 7,000 bus stops. So that was a huge change for our bus network. So the Silver Line at that time was at a standstill. It was not moving, and there were a lot of reasons behind that. But it was, one of the reasons I was brought in to DART was to get that project moving forward. And then, of course, no secret, COVID, DART was still recovering from the COVID-induced voluntary retirement program that incentivized 350 people from our ranks to retire. And so with them went a lot of, decades of knowledge and experience. And so we were recovering in a lot of different ways at that time. But here we are 3.5 years later, and while a lot has changed, a lot has also remained the same. So I was asked to talk about where DART is headed in the future. So today I want to talk or touch on the problems we're trying to solve, and then and how those play into the actions that we're taking at DART. Next slide, please. So before I go too far, let me just directly address the elephant in the room. Last week, 4 of DART's 13 member cities, voted to put a question on the ballot in May of 2026 for the voters to decide if they would like for DART to continue serving their respective cities. There are just a ton of moving parts to this conversation, and you can expect to hear a lot of rhetoric in the coming months between now and May on this hot button issue. And so all I want to say is that just know that the DART team is continuing to work in good faith with each of our cities to address the concerns in the coming months. And as far as services go, and any concerns about what services will be going away in each of these cities if they have a successful election, DART does have a legal obligation to inform the public of major changes to service. And so we will be holding public meetings in each of the cities to outline how the services will be impacted well before the election in May. So I'm going to leave it at that and move on, but I will be happy to answer questions when we get to the Q&A section of this presentation. Next slide, please. So before we talk about the future of DART and where we're headed with public transportation in the Metroplex, I think it's really critical for us to talk about the problem that we're trying to solve. Next slide, please. The modeling that the North Central Texas Council of Governments has been doing, it shows a 4 million population increase by 2045. That, you know, a lot of companies are relocating here because Texas has a very business-friendly atmosphere. And the last 30 years has shown a marked increase in development away from our major hubs. So away from the big cities like Dallas and Fort Worth, a lot in the northern suburbs of Dallas, and more recently, the southern sector. And all of this additional development outside of the sort of traditional hubs is not going to actually improve congestion. It's going to make it much, much worse. And so suffice it to say that there is increasing pressure on a transportation system that is already at capacity. Next slide, please. With this population increase comes an increasing demand for goods movement as well. And so even though we are in the business of people movement at DART, we obviously have to deal with goods movement while we're trying to move people as well. This increased demand for goods movement is exacerbated by this phenomenon called Amazon, as well as Uber Eats, which also obviously have grown tremendously since the pandemic. And so, as I said, even though DART focuses on people movement, goods movement plays a significant role in the efficiency of people throughput. And you can see in these photos here, so the upper, let's see, your upper left, which is also my upper left apparently, you can see a photograph from, that's actually I-20 right here in Dallas. And you can see the number of single unit trucks that are actually moving on that highway. And so that's all local delivery, right? We're not even talking about semis here. The lower right photo is actually from the I-710 freeway in Los Angeles. And that freeway is completely congested with semi trucks. And of course, you can see some of the tiny little cars that are trying to get by as well. And so this kind of demand, as I said, continues to compete with passenger movement. And this is a phenomenon we need to pay attention to. Next slide, please. Now, this slide describes the greenhouse gas reduction for switching 600 buses from diesel to renewable compressed natural gas. But here's the thing I want you all to understand. The greatest reduction to GHG emissions happens when more people get out of their cars and ride transit, all right? You can certainly electrify semi-trucks, you can certainly electrify other vehicles, you can electrify the buses, but the more people we can get on transit, the better. Certainly will help reduce the GHG emissions, but that also assumes that you're not having a huge population growth and you're not having more cars on the road, period. But here's another way to look at transportation. Next slide, please. This illustration shows how valuable street space is used very inefficiently. You can see in the top row the number or the amount of space it takes for 48 people to ride the bus versus 48 people riding a bike versus 48 people driving single occupant vehicles. Taking Uber is tantamount to driving solo. Electric cars still take space, even if their emissions are sourced elsewhere. And as far as our autonomous future goes, cars still take up space even when they aren't carrying passengers. So as we like to say it, an EV traffic jam is still a traffic jam, an AV traffic jam is still a traffic jam, an Uber traffic jam is still a traffic jam. And so at DART, we look at congestion as an economic problem. Space is a commodity that is in high demand but short supply. And so to improve mobility and all the associated negative externalities like poor air quality, travel delay, environmental degradation, and inequity, we have got to change our approach to mobility. Bottom line is that congestion and delay limits productivity. And in a region growing at such an accelerated pace, how do we expect to grow our economy by ensuring everyone can travel efficiently and thrive? Next slide, please. In light of this, let's start with a very fundamental concept that's critical to the future of the Metroplex, and that is regional connectivity. Transportation doesn't stop at city boundaries. It's a network that connects all points within our region to support a cohesive economy. While each city in the Metroplex has its own personality and value proposition, most cities depend on other cities to survive and prosper. Many businesses import workers from other places in the region. Hospitals treat patients from all over. Students from everywhere enroll in many DFW public schools and colleges. The need for connectivity is always present in a growing region, and we are stronger together. North Texas is home to more than 8 million people currently, and more than 500 people are moving here every single day. The way we meet future mobility needs must reflect this reality. If we approach our mobility investments with regional connections in mind, we will benefit both now and into the future. Next slide, please. So speaking of regional connectivity, let me just share the reach of DART's current system. Here on this slide, you can see our commuter, regional rail, and light rail system. You can see probably faint blue up along the top there. That's our new Silver Line that just opened on October 25th. You can see the 4 light rail lines that are currently in operation, as well as the TRE, which is the Trinity Railway Express, which is jointly operated by DART and Trinity Metro. Next slide, please. We add on here the gold lines, which represent our frequent bus network. These are the bus routes that actually operate at the same headways as our rail network. These buses run, 4 a.m. to 1 a.m. 7 days a week, and are critical for carrying as many people as possible. Next slide, please. Layering on the local bus network, the coverage routes, as well as some express routes that we run. This also adds local connectivity, local access. These routes, except for the express routes, the local and coverage routes run 5 a.m. to midnight every single day. And, they have varying headways between 15 to 20 minutes in the peak and up to 40 or 60 minutes in the off peak. Next slide, please. And this is adding on our GoLink demand responsive service. And you can see that we cover nearly half of our service area, about 312 square miles we cover with GoLink access. And this is something that I think is critically important, because as you've looked at the progression from rail to GoLink in these slides, what you probably see is that we filled in all the different blanks between all of our rail lines, because rail doesn't get to everybody. And it's critically important for us in order to provide the access to public transportation that people need. We've got to make sure we make it much more accessible and much more available for people. Next slide, please. So in the context of future growth in the state of our current transit system, DART is poised to capitalize on our current portfolio and deliver even more. We see transit as part of an integrated transportation network, with each mode performing to its highest and best use. We need to leverage the capacity of bus and rail while ensuring coverage with GoLink. We need to spend more time making the bus system work well. And we need to improve transit performance, be the best in class, provide the highest quality of service. And in doing so, we will improve rider experiences, which of course, will result in more riders. Next slide, please. So with all the growth projected for the region, DART embarked on a new strategic planning effort in late 2022, so right after I met with all of you. Next slide, please. What came out of this effort was a rewrite of the organizational mission, vision, and values. For our vision, we strive to be your first in mind mobility partner. Our mission is to create a best-in-class mobility system that helps people and communities connect and flourish. And what's important about this is we talk about the why. Why are we doing this? Why do we provide public transportation? It's not just because we like pouring concrete, and I know engineers do like to pour concrete, but We're doing this because there's an outcome we're trying to achieve, and that's providing people access to opportunity, access to services, access to education. And so this idea that we're helping people and communities connect and flourish is extraordinarily important to us. Our values have become a rallying cry for our staff. We're a team, we're professional, we're committed, and we are DART. We're super proud of that. And our Point B strategic plan reflects our professional pride and commitment to improving mobility across the region. Next slide, please. Our strategic goals are organized through three lenses. That advance? Oh yeah, it did. Okay. They're organized through three lenses. First of all, for the DART staff, who we depend on in order to deliver this strategic plan. For them, we want to remove obstacles that allow employees to do their best work and to contribute to the outcomes we're trying to achieve. We can't accomplish this vision without our people. For our customers, we want to improve the quality, availability, and connectivity of our services, making transit attractive as an everyday mobility choice. And for our communities, we want to leverage resources and relationships with city partners to create fantastic spaces around DART infrastructure, activating otherwise underutilized assets. Point B goes beyond mobility alone to leverage DART as a strategic and economic, as a strategic economic and mobility asset for the region, our cities, and the public. Next slide, please. So the board approved this strategic plan in June of 2024. So we've been at it a little over a year, and we've already made significant progress in the areas of security, cleanliness, and reliability through a $110 million investment in ridership improvement funds. We're developing area plans unique to each of our 13 cities to provide transit that fits within each city's vision. And we've got about half of those area plans completed. Our investments are showing promise. Our net promoter score, which is something, it's a measure from our customer satisfaction surveys, our net promoter score rose 40 points over the last few years. Next slide, please. Of course, our most recent celebration was the October 25th opening of the DART Silver Line. This 26-mile regional rail connects 7 cities from Plano to DFW Airport. And to my point about regional connectivity, the Silver Line connects people to jobs, education, healthcare, travel, and other DART services. It also connects to DCTA in Denton by way of our Green Line connection in Carrollton, as well as TexRail into Fort Worth from the DFW Airport Terminal B. So if you haven't gotten a chance yet, please give us a try and hop aboard. Next slide, please. Well, you might wonder, now that Silver Line's open, what's ahead in the capital planning and construction side of DART? Well, never fear, we always have something to do. DART Transform is a long-term investment in recapitalization and rehabilitation of our entire system. And that means new buses, new light rail vehicles, and upgrades to our facilities to meet passenger needs. It's about system modernization and state of good repair. Our system's getting to be about 30 years old on the light rail side. The buses get replaced, every 15 years or so, but the facilities where we maintain all of our fleet and also our guideway that we run on, all of that needs to be taken care of. So we have a big effort also that centers on reimagining the rider experience from the ground up, looking at passenger journeys and all the pain points customers have throughout their journey. Our surveys are really clear about this. Passengers expect clean, safe stations with good lighting, clear signage, and technology updates that make DART more modern and more intuitive. So over the next few months, riders will begin to see the new Gillig buses hitting the streets. We've already received the first 2, and starting this month, we're supposed to be receiving about 6 or 7 a week. And we're also going to have new passenger information displays at our stations and new ticket vending machines that are going to be installed to make purchasing fares much more seamless. A lot of this work was started as a direct result of rider feedback, and we hope that riders and non-riders alike will see that we're invested in improving the customer experience. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned earlier, we have a family of services that collectively add significant capacity to our regional transportation system. And how we choose to leverage that capacity is really up to us. We want to increase availability of services across the entire network and also make them work really well for all people. And that means higher frequencies, more access, improved comfort, and overall better quality. From DART's perspective, we're going to do our part to make the service the best it can be, and we expect that riders will come with that. And hopefully, we'll have the opportunity to provide an occasional surprise and delight along the way. Next slide, please. So despite all the drama swirling around about us, DART is very focused on what we're trying to achieve. We know that we play an essential role in adding transportation system capacity in the future. By leveraging transit, this region can continue to grow while meeting all the travel demand with all the additional people coming. And this is how DART intends to contribute to the success of the North Texas Metroplex. Next slide. So for DART, we're developing long-term relationships with everyone in the region. It's important to us that we earn your trust and confidence so that you also see value in what we do. Point B lays the groundwork for us to become first in mind as mobility partners, and we'll pursue our goals with vigor because the end goal is worth fighting for. So we are super happy to serve all of you, and we hope that you will take a ride on DART very, very soon. Thank you very much.
Nadine, any questions from the audience? All right. Yes. Oh.
What?
You are on the air.
Oh, okay, good. Hey, so what's the consequences for the cities that vote to pull out? They have some obligation for a number of years afterwards to pay off bonds or something? And what does that look like, say, for the city of Plano?
Yeah, so the cities, if they're successful at withdrawing from DART, they are obligated to fulfill their debt obligations that they committed to when we first started building the system and throughout this period before they have the vote. So for the city of Plano, I don't know the exact number, but their portion of the current debt is around $1 billion, I think, or maybe a little bit more than that. And so every city has a different portion of that, depending on, I think it's allocated possibly by population. So every city has a different amount, and then the amount that it would take them to pay it off, the number of years varies by city as well.
So you could have no service and still be paying lots of money 10 to 15 years.
That's correct. Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because the other consequence of leaving DART is that basically the day of the election, or the day that the election is certified, the day after that is when all services cease. So DART would immediately stop providing service.
Start changing their disadvantaged business?
So that's a great question. We have to follow federal rules because we do get federal funding. The question was, are we going to change our disadvantaged business program? So we do have to follow federal rules. The federal government, or the FTA, has not eliminated the DBE program. What they have done is they have redefined what it takes to certify as a DBE. So it's a little bit of a tricky question to answer, because the DBE program technically isn't going away, but the fact that people have to recertify, we don't know what that's going to look like when people are done recertifying.
What is the cost per rider mile
Per rider mile?
as compared to other sources? I've tried DART many times, and it's difficult unless it's right on the line. I'm going to, because for me to take DART, it costs me time. But what is the cost per rider mile as compared to other?
So that the cost, you said per rider mile, so that's a little bit of a different calculation that we.
Different.
Yeah.
But
So
it's still the same ballpark, because I'm trying to justify it in my mind.
So, okay, so I can't answer that exact question the way you asked it. We do have varying, what we call subsidy per rider, based on different modes. I don't have that at my fingertips, but I'd be happy to get that information back to you. What I will say is, to your point, what I heard you say was, it's very difficult for you to get to where you need to go based off of, where the lines run. And I 100% agree with you. So if you were to go back and look at the map that I kind of went through where we layered on all the different services, we're trying to minimize the number of connections that people have to make when they take a trip on DART. Of course, if you're taking the rail only and your destination's fairly close to the rail station, it's very easy to go to your park and ride, drive over there, park, get on the train, get to your destination, and walk the last, however many blocks to get to your destination. Ideally, if we could provide a lot more service and have it come a lot more frequently, those connections, if you had to get on another bus at one end of the trip, if you had to make that connection, would be much simpler. We have a concept in the Point B strategic plan called the 10 by 10. And that's a concept that we refer to that is about having a 10-minute walk to 10-minute service. I mean, if you can imagine having 10-minute service really within a 10-minute walk of your house or your workplace, it would make it so much easier to take DART. Right now, we don't provide enough service. And I can tell you that, having lived in a lot of different places and visited a lot of different cities around the world, most places where transit works well, the train's coming around every 5 minutes or 10 minutes, definitely every 10 minutes, if not five, maybe sometimes even every two. And so, there isn't anybody who wants to increase service more than DART, because we think that the only way that we can actually get people to ride more is if we actually provide a service that they can use. And you also alluded to, trying to get to your final destination. That whole first last mile issue that people experience, it's real. That's one of the reasons why we have service through our GoLink microtransit service, is to help people make that connection for the last mile or the first mile so that they can always choose to ride DART their trip.
Morning. Um, I'm a big fan of DART, and we've just had the Silver Line has a station that I literally can walk to. And, but my wife will not hear of it because her feeling and position is that DART is unsafe. And I guess I'm asking you, what is being done about that to A, physically address the concerns, and then B, what is being done about adjusting the perception?
That is a very question. First of all, our statistics on crime show that our crime is down by double digits on our system. And whether or not you believe that, it doesn't matter, because the perception really is reality for most people. So I totally appreciate where your wife's coming from. DART has a security strategy. We're looking at security more holistically than just armed personnel on the system, although we have added 100 transit security officers specifically to our light rail system to monitor, to ride, to police or go around the stations and make sure that nothing is happening. Probably not enough people. 100 is a lot, but it's probably not enough given the size of our system. But in addition to that, we're looking at things like crime prevention through environmental design. As we're doing system modernization, how can we improve lighting around our stations? How can we make sure that there are not design flaws within our system that allow people to, kind of congregate behind walls and things like that? We're looking at all of those things because we do know that security is definitely something that deters people from riding. I do think that, when more people ride, there's a better sense of security on the system. So we've got to get ridership up. I also think that it is really like our crime reflects the surrounding area. Most of you wouldn't know that, but when we look at our crime statistics and look at the crime in the neighborhoods surrounding our stations, and this happens all over the entire system, not just in Dallas, but the percentage of crime or the crime activity is much more reflective of the surrounding neighborhoods. It's important to us to help people feel safe. We are looking at what feels more safe for female riders, because we also know that if we can make female riders feel safe, then probably everyone will feel safe. And so we're continuing to look at options. There's been a study in Los Angeles when I was there about how women travel, what are their specific needs. We look at areas around the whole world that have examples of, sometimes they have female only cars, sometimes they have special locations on the platform for women to stand, so they can be together. There are a lot of different concepts. I'm not saying all of them will work here, but we're willing to try a lot of different things. And I think we also have an example of working with Columbia and their transit system, because they've done a lot with their customer experience and creating a sense of ownership from the community so that bad things don't happen on their system. So we want to see what it would take to instill that type of culture. Ideally for us, we should get to, if we do everything right, we should get to a place where there's a culture of self-management on our system. That's not easy to achieve in the United States, frankly. Certainly not in Texas, but it's something that we think is a worthy goal.
It may be a catch-22, but you mentioned that there are different stations, different areas, different parts of the town that have different crime data. Is that available online? Because I'm not sure that might not be a good thing to have online, but I'm just curious. That's a
We report on. I'm gonna lose the acronym. I do. NIRBS. Oh, NIRBS. We report all of our data there, which I think is publicly available. Yeah.
what was that again?
NIRBS. Don't ask
Okay.
me what it stands for.
Okay.
It's a National Police Statistic database, but I don't know. NIRBS. But yeah, that is publicly available.
I live in Prosper, so I want to know, like, do you have any plans of extending the busing or railing facilities to anytime soon, or when do you think it's going to happen in the future?
So a loaded question also, because Prosper is not part of the DART service area. So there are no taxes being collected for DART there. And so what we can do, and we're happy to talk to your city about this, we're very open to providing contracted services to the cities that are not part of our service area. It's a little sensitive because some of our cities are asking for a la carte services, and it's very nuanced. But one of the things we do with McKinney, for example, is that we provide some senior and disabled transit services to them, and it's done under contract. And so we do have a policy that the DART board has passed, which allows us to do contracted services to cities that are outside of our service area.
There is no such thing as a free lunch. Cost must be paid by somebody somewhere sometime. There are fixed costs and there are operating costs in there. Maintenance, salaries, this, and that, the other. How close is DART to getting all of its operating costs paid for out of the fare box?
Well, you sound like an engineer. Um, uh, so not close. It's not close. We operate on a pretty high subsidy, and that's not really unlike the investments we all make in all the civil transportation infrastructure, right? We don't. I mean, obviously, the toll roads probably pay for all their costs, right? But they also charge a lot. So we do not, we're not close. I can't remember. I think we're around 6% or something, or 7% for our fare box recovery, which is not high. We have a big system. Sorry. Yeah, don't quote me on that because I think it changes from time to time. But it's something that we always have to work on. And with our new ticket vending machines, we anticipate being able to collect fares more. And certainly, with our police officers and fare enforcement officers, we're writing a lot more citations when people do not have fare. So we are definitely trying to enforce the fares more. That definitely helps us with the feelings of security as well. All right, thank you.